Hey, I'm Kyle Hearth and welcome to Ruger Range Drills. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about grip control and trigger control on a handgun. Now these are two very important aspects of engaging with your handgun because your grip control is how you control and cover the surfaces of that handgun. And then your trigger control is going to relate to downrange, how you put those rounds on target, because bad trigger control will give you usually an error to the left or right depending on whether you're pushing or pulling the trigger. And back to the grip's going to let us control the pistol. So with those two aspects, grip control and trigger control, we're going to be able to stabilize the handgun to where it stays in the same place as we shoot it. And then our trigger control to make sure that we're right on target. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like. So I have a Security 9 Ruger. It's clear. So what we're trying to accomplish here is surface on the handgun. So I'm going to try to cover as much of this hand grip as possible with as much of the surface of my palms of my hand as I can. So first and most important is you want to drive into the saddle area. So you want to take the portion of your hand that makes the L and you want to drive this down into your gun. Now this is not only important when you're gripping the gun on the range to shoot it regularly like we are, but also when you drive your hand into your holster, and we'll get into that later. So as you drive the hand down, you want to seat into the saddle. A lot of people will leave a space in this saddle and it'll allow your gun to move as it recoils. But the more grip you get down in there, the easier it is going to be to control it. Now after that, you just normally grip the gun. Remember, we're keeping our finger out of the trigger. We'll roll that gun over and take a look at what it looks like. So what we can see is we've got real good surface contact here, and we've got real good surface contact around the backside of the pistol. But now we've got this big space here. Fortunately, the very meaty portion of your thumb at the base of it fits perfectly in that space. And you'll hear people talk about covering the surface of the gun or getting your hands wrung together. And that's what they're talking about, is taking that portion and getting it covered up. Because what you're trying to do is cover as much as possible. Now you'll see when you put your thumb in here, it's got a natural place for your thumb to cover more of the gun here. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to place, and then we're going to allow that thumb to cover. This thumb will just rest gently down on top of it. And now we've got as much coverage on the gun as we possibly can. So that when we do go and shoot, now that recoil and that little bit of flip is going to be controlled more because we've got more surface control on the pistol. Now let's talk a little bit about the trigger. So the trigger, different people will tell you different things about trigger. What really is important is that you place your finger on the trigger the same way every time, that you use as much of the meaty portion as you can, and that whatever it is that you're doing, whether you decide to use more of the tip or more back into the crook of the finger, is that how does that translate on target? Because what works for you may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. So really what you're going to have to do is find that happy place on the trigger that fits in your finger correctly and then translates to accurate shots downrange. So again, working on our grip, we'll drive in, lay our finger in, and for this purpose, I'm going to leave this hand away so you can see a little more. I'm going to take my trigger finger and I'm going to place, I like the center of the pad. A lot of people will get a little deeper and use a little more of the crook, and a lot of people will get out here and use a little more of the tip. Again, it's how that translates to the target that's going to make the difference for you. The importance is repetitive. You need to make sure that it works for you and then do it every time. So we get our finger on that trigger. I'm going to go back and place my other hand now. So hand in, now we've got grip control, trigger in once we are engaging the target, and then a steady press rearward. You shouldn't know when this gun's going to go off. It should be a surprise to you. What your focus should be is steady pressure rearward, and then the surprise as the gun goes off while you concentrate on nothing but sight alignment. If you will do all of those mechanics, not only will you have a gun that recoils gently and is controllable, but what you will also do is have a controllable trigger squeeze that should surprise you when it goes off with the sights aligned, and you'll get repetitive shots on target. And once you have that, now we've got something that we can work with. So, grip control, trigger control, really important, and it's going to be the first and fundamental basic mechanics to where we start putting rounds down range and make that look good on paper.